Hey, what?
Can we keep
Hey,
that?
yeah. Hey, you're listening to Music Posting. I'm Alex.
And I'm sorry,
Uh,
Astrid.
uh,
And we're
yeah.
listening to the new MGMT album called Loss of Life. They released their
Loss of Life.
new album 6 years after Little Dark Age in 2018, which was a pretty massive success. I was pretty into that one. And the album cover here looks like, I don't know if I want to say it, but looks like your kind of style. I've seen some of your visual art, and I think it looks a little like that album cover. And I'm not saying anything necessarily, but maybe there's a lawsuit that needs to be had.
Thank
Obviously, I'm
you.
kidding, but
No,
it really
yeah.
reminded me of your art style, the album cover.
I really appreciate that. I think this album cover is really interesting. It's like very minimal. Like you can
Yeah,
imagine two floating orange heads with like very monochrome, like very monocolored, and then on a completely black background, and then the silhouette of one person riding a horse, which is like very hyper realistic, but it's like a circus horse, like
yeah,
like on a ride that you would find at like a amusement park. It also reminds me a bit of like Bill Wurtz's style.
interesting. Yeah, I can see that a little bit.
Yeah, so maybe they took some inspiration here from Bill Wurtz or the internet in general.
Yeah, I mean, the album cover is, in my opinion, like very. I mean, a lot of times album covers kind of encapsulate the vibe and sort of like almost like set the tone of an album sometimes.
Yeah.
But sometimes there's album covers that really aren't that good or really, don't really like relate too much with the music. But I think this album cover, it really like this is how the album feels. It's very
Yeah.
devoid of life, devoid of you literally like almost the entire person is cut out in this
Yeah.
cover, and the
Yeah.
horse also to me represents a little bit of fantasy as well, because I feel like there's a big fantasy vibe on
I
this album.
agree.
But
I was getting the same impression. It was very psychedelic, uh kind of almost escapism or reflecting on the human experience, the experience of life, but also in the greater sense, like from a philosophical point of view, like what does it mean to
yeah,
be alive? How satisfied can you be with being alive? How prepared can you be for losing that life? And what is that like? Um, I thought there's going to be a lot of interesting discussion to be had on this
definitely.
regarding this album, I think. But yeah, what's your experience with MGMT like outside of Little Dark Age?
Thank you for asking. I listened to Little Dark Age in 2018, and obviously that was really huge for me. Like I was just really into that. I think it's the vinyl record that I've spun the most.
Mm,
Uh, like honestly, it's also like an album that gets me to dance. Like I will literally dance when I listen to it almost every time. It's just that
yeah,
like in the sounds in that are so infectious.
I
I've
agree
heard
completely.
I've heard other MGMT albums. I listened to their 2013 titled, self-titled album MGMT, and I wasn't really into that one very much. I didn't think it was bad, but it just didn't grip me the same way. And obviously, I've heard a lot of their music from when they were first starting. There's that album, Oracular Spectacular, in
Yeah,
2008, that obviously
yeah.
like put them on the map. And there's songs on that I think everybody's heard, Electric Feel and like Time to Pretend. Like those are huge songs.
Kids,
Yeah,
so
kids,
many
and
bangers from that album.
a lot of bangers. And listening to this new album and how much I enjoyed Little Dark Age makes me kind of want to revisit some of the older stuff because I haven't listened to it as heavily, especially in a really long time. But MGMT has always sort of been around. They've always been pretty important in this scene, and obviously, I think we were both pretty excited going in to this new album because it had been 6 years since the last album, and I was also kind of wondering what your experience with MGMT is throughout your life.
Yeah, thanks for asking too. I was really excited for this album because for the longest time I have been a huge MGMT fan. Um, So I started with Oracular Spectacular, like, way back in the day,
Mm,
just because, Time to Pretend, the instrumental was very popular during, like, for YouTube tutorials during that era,
Yeah.
And also
That's
just
very
like
true.
yeah, or like, you know, those old videos with like just text and like
Yeah, like
SVG and like
they were made in Windows Movie Maker, just like the
yeah,
blue background, white text,
yeah, exactly. I feel
how
like,
to download Excel.
yeah, I feel like Time to Pretend or Kids was, like, a very popular choice for those,
Yeah.
types of videos for some reason, so I got pretty hooked there. And then, Congratulations came out during, like, a very formative year of my life, and I listened to that to death, and, like, formed a very special emotional connection to it because I, was, like, snowboarding a lot then, and
Oh, really?
yeah, I would listen to Congratulations while snowboarding, and it is an amazing snowboarding album, I'm just gonna say.
Yeah.
Um, and then the self-titled came out. I actually like, I don't think I cared for it at first, but then I re-listened to it and, like, I started getting it more and more. I think it
It grew
got,
on
like
you?
yeah, well, it got a lot of hate, um, but I don't think the hate is warranted.
Mm.
I think it actually is, like, a pretty decent album, but maybe
Yeah,
that
I mean, I
opinion
haven't
is
listened to it in so
split.
long. I remember feeling, like, very, not like I didn't hate it, but I remember just being like, "Eh, it's okay," and I just never returned to it, and so maybe I should. And it's
Yeah,
funny, I've never listened to Congratulations. That's the one record I haven't listened to them
I
listened
think
from them.
Congratulations and, gosh, I don't know, Congratulations has a special spot in my heart. It's just such an amazing album. Um, this album feels more akin to, like, spiritually, it feels more akin to Congratulations and, Little Dark Age. Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
and then I listened to Little Dark Age, of course, and when that came out, that was amazing. Um, they have, like, a really interesting history in the music business. They blew up with Oracular Spectacular, and then rather than keep making that, like, pop sound, which they were actually satirizing,
Really?
yeah, they were, like, making those songs were kind of like their whole thing was like, "Let's just see if we can make, like, a generic pop song." And, like,
Wow, I actually didn't know that.
yeah, the lyrics are very, like, satirizing of, like, the, pop environment at that time. So what they really wanted to do was make music like Congratulations when that came out. So I really respect them for just completely sticking true to their values and doing what they wanted to do.
Yeah.
Because they could have just kept making music like Oracular Spectacular, um, and, you know, just continued to milk that sound, but they just continue to choose to do what they want to do, which I really respect.
That is really cool. I didn't know that about that, and actually, it kinda makes more sense now that I know that, thinking about Oracular Spectacular. Even the name of it is
Mhm.
is very silly, but, yeah, Little Dark Age is definitely, my favorite personally, and this album, I feel like Little Dark Age is really depressing, like, if
Yeah.
you read into the lyrics, like, it has this happy sound that makes you wanna dance and vibe, at least that's how it is to me, but
Yeah,
you read into the lyrics and you're like, "Oh, wait, this is, like, super, super dark,"
I
and
agree.
but this new album not only has those bleak lyrics, but I feel
It's
like
just
it
bleaker.
sounds bleaker even.
It sounds bleaker. Yeah, well, my interpretation of Little Dark Age was that it was about death
Yeah.
and, like, overcoming death, but also, I kind of interpreted it as, like, artist death. So, like,
Mm.
when an artist fades into obscurity, this feels much more, like, specifically about death in, like, the real world.
Yeah.
Um And it also sounds like, much more mature in a way, like, it doesn't have the same youthful pluckiness as their
Right.
earlier, work. It feels like a much more, mature and, like, middle-aged album, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, I think it sounds super timeless, though, with the compositional choices, and, I think this album is gonna have a lot of longevity for that reason.
Interesting. Well, do you have anything else to say about MGMT, or do you wanna hop into track 1?
I'm down to hop in, but we kind of forgot completely about our new segment where we're
Oh,
talking about
yeah.
what else we're listening to. Before we hop into it, do you wanna talk about what else we're listening to?
I'm gonna be really real with you. I haven't listened to anything other than this MGMT album in the past week.
Okay, gotcha.
But I
Um,
want to hear what you've listened to.
I've been listening to the new Yeet album,
Oh, wait.
2983.
Actually, I did listen to a song off of that. I
Yeah.
forgot.
Do you know those, like, SpongeBob AI songs where it's like, "Smoking hydro, Gary hit him with the meow, meow." You know those?
Yeah, yeah.
I strongly suspect that Yeet is behind those songs.
Really?
I really do. I
Is
really
this
think
your
it's
own theory, or have other people been theorizing this as
I
well?
don't know. I don't know, if anyone else has theorized this, but the connection I hear between that and this and Yeet, I feel like it's the same person using the AI voice.
Holy.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's
I
just
think
Yeet.
you need to write a an article about this.
A
Breaking
dissertation.
news.
I need to
Yeah.
get out the red string and particle board. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. Besides that, I have been listening to the new Quadeca a lot. There's a
Mm,
new Matt Champion single out featuring Dijon, who we've mentioned on this show before, who I
you're on that
absolutely
Dijon
adore.
core.
Oh yeah. I've been listening to a bit of Hannah Vu, the new song Care. It's pretty good.
You're out,
And
you're listening and listening. I respect it.
I'm listening and listening, and I've been revisiting the collaboration between Pink Pantheress and Sam Galatry, "Picture in My Mind."
Mm.
Sam Galatry, he is a great producer, and this song is just so much fun. I really like it.
I will say last night was probably the only time I listened to music this whole week, and,
Mhm.
well, other than this MGMT album, which I've been listening to a few times,
Yeah.
uh, but I didn't find it worth mentioning because I wasn't necessarily having a good time, but I was, like, looking through music from, like, 2009.
Mhm.
So I was listening to, like, Hot and Cold by Katy Perry,
That's
and
so
then
funny.
well, it happened because I was on this,
Yeah.
I was on Instagram Reels,
Mhm.
and this, video came up, and it was, like, SpongeBob vocoded to this, this freaking song that has this it's this rap song that has this I think it's by, God, I can't remember the name, but it has this really infectious, like, sample on it.
Yeah.
And, I was like, "Damn, like, what is this?" And then I went and listened to that, and then I just went down a rabbit hole just listening to, like, old music. It was kinda fun, but
That's
it was
actually
also
awesome.
I was like, "This is it's funny because when I listen to music like that, like Hot and Cold by Katy Perry,
Mhm.
you're instantly, like, brought back to, 2009, and you feel, like, all these things, from when you were, like, a kid. You're like, "Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, I remember when, like, a girl stole my Kermit the Frog snapback, and I was really upset." Like, being 12 was so hard.
Yeah, you lost your swag. Your
I
swag
lost my
got
swag.
jacked. You got your
Yeah,
swag jacked.
it's so sad. But, yeah,
Yeah,
that unfortunately, that usually I'm listening to a lot of music, but this past week, I just didn't listen to a lot other than this,
that's fair.
MGMT album.
So you really soaked in this album then.
Yeah, for the past few days, I've been soaking it in for sure.
So, having soaked in it, is it time to taste the fruits of our marinade? Question mark.
It's kind of a gross way to put it in a way, but I'm just imagining myself just, like, marinating in, like, a stew at a
No, no,
anyway,
marinating in a blanket of sound, in a
yes.
sound cocoon, like, I don't know, like a futuristic anime
Yeah,
scene or
ooh,
something.
I like that. Well, yeah,
And
let's
definitely
hop
less
into it.
gross than
Less gross than
marinating
the
a stew
marinating.
of yeah.
Yeah, I made it gross,
Anyways,
I'm sorry.
no, it's all good.
Track 1, Loss of Life, part 2, which is
Yeah,
really funny.
why do you think they started with part 2?
I don't know because, like, you know, it doesn't seem like a part 2. It feels like a part 1 to me. I
It
mean,
does feel like a part 1.
maybe it's just they're, diverting your or subverting your expectations a little bit, just kinda messing with you. Because now that you're saying all this stuff about how that first album was like a sort of a parody of pop at the time, it
Mhm.
makes you think, like makes you wonder how much they're kind of fucking with you a little bit.
Yeah,
Like, a lot of musicians, myself included, like to throw in little things, just to kind of fuck with the listener. I think
yeah.
that could maybe be it, but why do you think it's called part 2?
I wonder if it, could interchangeably be the outro because you know, there's no way to, like, linearly approach this album, I feel like,
Mm,
considering they did not linearly approach it.
yeah,
They've made a pretty bold statement here by putting, because the final track is called "Loss of Life."
right.
Um, it would make sense in a linear progression for "Loss of Life Part 2" to come next, but, I'll just mention that I feel like, "Loss of Life" is, actually about dying,
Right.
um, versus the lyrics in "Loss of Life Part 2." um, they're basically describing, like, a bunch of different things from, like, life itself. These are the lyrics: "Why a cow has horns, why a woman is affectionate, why milk is white, why holly is green, why a kid is bearded, why the cow parsnip is hollow, why brine is salt, why ale is bitter, why the linnet is green and berries red, why a cuckoo complains, why it sings." These are, like, questions that you would expect, like, a child to have about the world, like, "Oh, why is the sky blue?
Mm,
Why this? Why that?" This is kind of like, exploring Earth and the world with, like, this childlike wonderment,
mm.
um, which I feel like you can also have these questions near the end of your life, perhaps. I've never been near the end of my life. Actually, no, I have almost died, but it's like, you might
Do you wanna
start with.
talk about that?
Nah, we don't need to get we don't need to get into it. Um,
Yeah.
but, like, you might start asking yourself these questions as you're nearing the end of your life, and you're like, "Oh, what was it all for?" Like, you
Mm,
know, um, you might start just pondering these things, but you might also ponder these things at the very beginning of your life like a child. I almost wonder if this album could be played in a loop,
mm.
and I wonder if there's, like, a reincarnation thing going on where it's like you
Yeah.
go through this journey, because one of the songs feels like literally traveling, through, like, the river of the underworld, like, being brought to the underworld.
Mm.
I wonder if at the end of this journey, you just, like, loop back and it's like, "Oh, you're a kid again."
Interesting. I really enjoy that perspective. I I very interestingly did not think too much about death in the during this entire listening of this album, and hearing
Mm.
your perspective is very interesting. To me, like, I was very focused on this sort of constant theme of human suffering, because
Mhm.
I feel like this, song, like, opens us up to it almost just feels like it's representing the energy and the how people, like, back then were still struggling, and we're
Yeah.
still struggling now, and you just sort of I felt really connected to just thousands of years of human suffering while I was listening to this album,
Yeah.
and I think it's, I think the vibe the reason I get that vibe and why I feel like this sort of opens that up is I feel like this is like this I'm not really sure what it is, but it has almost like an old English feel to it. Like,
Yeah, it's
you
funny you
feel
say
the
that.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, sorry, not to cut you off, but it's funny you say that because this is actually, like, the lyrics for "Loss of Life Part 2" is actually like an old Welsh poem.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
it was,
it definitely has that vibe, right? Like, it
yeah.
you feel you feel like literally like you're in a village, like you're just, like, milking a cow and, like, it's just, like, these lyrics at the end, like, "I have been dead, I have been alive," after talking about all these things in the village, whether it's the cows or, "I have been a blue salmon, I have been a dog, I have felt all the emotions of all these different creatures, animals,
Yeah,
and humans, and
yeah,
I feel the suffering of all spirits, and I am here suffering as well, but at the end of the day, I am also alive, and that's sort of like the
yeah.
human experience. And that's to me just sort of how I felt right away listening to this. And it's interesting that it's called part two because that honestly doesn't really make sense to me. And I would love to hear the comments. Like your idea is interesting, where you're saying it might loop into itself. I'm wondering like if you could listen to the album backwards or something, or
Wouldn't that be something?
yeah, like, there's gotta be something, but maybe it is just, it's a red herring or whatever whatever that's
Right,
called, maybe it doesn't
right,
mean
yeah,
anything.
yeah.
But, yeah, I think that's really interesting. So, it's an old Welsh poem, that makes a lot of sense because it had sort of an old, like, European vibe to it. Um,
Yeah, absolutely. I did I completely agree. It felt like I was, listening to, someone describing their experience in the village,
right,
the ye old village from, like, the Middle Ages.
and a lot of that theme
Um
continues. throughout this album because there's a lot of fantasy elements and talks of castles and knights and peasantry and whatnot, and even sounds, trumpets and like just all sorts
Yeah.
of things like that. So
It does
sorry, I think I
sound
cut you
very
out.
No, no,
Cut you
no,
off.
you're good. It does sound very medieval.
Yeah, yeah,
I
that's the word I'm looking for. Medieval.
if
Thank you.
I'm not mistaken, I feel like because it's been a while since I've revisited it, but I feel like Congratulations had some of that same vibe where,
Mm,
Siberian Breaks, yeah. That song has, like, a very medieval feel to it lyrically, and, um, it feels very, like, minstrelly, like, "Minstrel,
interesting.
play me a tune."
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
definitely. I get that
yeah,
vibe here, and I haven't listened to Congratulations, so I don't entirely know what you're talking about, but now it makes me maybe wanna revisit that. I gotta
I
listen
think
to Congratulations, man.
I think you should check it out. I think you
Yeah.
should check it out. Yeah, it's definitely a very interesting opening to the album. It's just, like, spoken over it's like
Mhm.
spoken word over this very, like, droning, like, melody that sounds like
Mm.
it's being played from, like, a child's toy,
Yeah. Oh,
um,
I had the same feeling. It felt like a wind-up toy box.
like a wind-up toy box, yeah, and that's kinda where I got this sense of, like, childlike wonder from this song. It's
I
like
could totally see that.
yeah, it feels like a baby taking its first steps or something.
Interesting. Well, a baby comes out of a mother, and the next song is called Mother Nature. Would you
Oh,
like to
good
go to
one.
that track? Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What did you think of this song?
Yeah, I like this one a lot. I see a lot of lyrical content here about struggle as
Mhm.
well. Like, it almost like I get this perspective of a mother or a father, or just a parent figure, coming home, like just dropping the groceries on the front lawn, like literally in this verse one, and
Yeah.
there's just so much struggle. Like, are the kids okay? And there's a lot of talk about poverty here. There's lines like, "Come take a walk with me down Billionaires Row, trying to keep our
Mhm.
balance over zero." Like you're looking at all these big houses, but you have nothing, and you're just struggling to make ends meet for your family and your kids. And there's so much stress and so much worry. But it's almost like envisioning the struggle in poverty or whatever else as like a
Yeah.
fairy tale. It feels like medieval or a fairy tale or whatever. And
Yeah.
it's comparing that struggle that we just felt in the last song of this like old timey struggle to now a very modern struggle.
Yeah.
That's
And
sort of
it's
the impression I got.
no, I totally agree, because it's interesting. Like, there is definitely choices being used here for the lyrics, like, "I torched the fields again and killed an
Mhm.
honest man." Like, that sounds like
Right.
something, you would say in, like, the 14th century,
Yeah.
or even, or even like, the bridge, which is like, "To open castle gates and let me go inside and taste the bitter tea
Right.
that won't let you hide. Then we can take away as much as we can steal, break all the precious bones before the guards appear, before the fantasy is cast into the fire and strike the temple bell to resonate. The covenant
Yeah.
of the heart." Um, it does feel like a very medieval way to put, like, a very modern struggle, which is, like your defense mechanisms, or even like your your protections and stuff like that.
Mm.
Um yeah, I actually really love this song. I listened to it as the single, and I just felt very in love with the instrumental. There's like this
Mhm.
cool flute and like this strummed guitar, and it sounds very much like, I don't know how to describe it, like Rolling Hills or something.
Mm. Yeah,
And
it has a very
yeah.
nostalgic vibe, like, especially, like, the keys. And there's even I think I caught, like, a little harmonica later in the song. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It sounds like, very 70s, like, I
yeah.
almost wonder how much inspiration, um, MGMT took from, like, their own childhoods when
Yeah,
doing
probably a
some of this
lot.
music. I wonder if this was, like, inspired by music their parents were playing, because the lyrics also feel kind of like parents talking to each other.
True.
Do you
And
know what I
and
mean?
obviously this song is about parenting in some way, I think. A
Yeah.
little bit about the struggle of parenting and
Mhm.
the struggle of people in general, which I feel like most of these songs feel like they're about. But
I
yeah.
think so too. Um Yeah, the visual that I got was kind of like a like a parent driving in their, like, 70s sedan, like, driving their kid to school
Mhm.
or something.
Yeah,
That's
yeah. Well,
kind of
I
the vibe I was getting.
I picture coming home from work, but as well in
That
the
too,
same,
yeah.
just this is exactly what you're saying. Like a 70s boxy car coming home from work with some groceries. You're like,
Yeah.
"God, my fucking life sucks and everything's fucking horrible," and then giving up and just torching the fields and then feeling this sort of, uh, generational or long timeline of human suffering and just relating it to, like being a peasant and,
Yeah,
uh, it's just it's a very interesting, yeah, philosophical song here. It's
I
very
think so too.
bleak, even though it
Very
sounds very
bleak,
nice.
yeah. Well, it sounds kind of like someone reaching their midlife crisis,
Yeah. Yeah, a
and
little
they're
bit.
like, "Is this really what life has become for me? Like, am I living this life? Like, this
Yeah.
is the life I've been." It is bleak in a way, but it's also a very universal experience in the same way that, you know, I think the quote, "The only things certain in life are death and taxes." I think I think that is kind of like the vibe I get from this album, but
Yeah.
we can add on, like, suffering and questioning your place in this world and, like, asking yourself if you have, like, done enough or if there has been enough for you.
Yeah. Good song, though.
Great song, yeah, I listen to this regularly. I like I like it a lot. The instrumental is so good, and, I love the chorus and flute or whatever it is. Yeah, I like it a lot.
Yeah. And unlike, this one has sort of a 70s vibe, I feel like
Mhm.
this next song, track 3, Dancing in Babylon, has way more of an 80s vibe.
It does. It absolutely does. This is interestingly enough, this is MGMT's first feature on any album.
Really?
Yep, they've never had a feature before.
That's really cool.
Um, yeah, I might upset a few people. I don't know if I really, like, cared for this song as much as I did for some of the other songs.
Yeah, that's
Um,
fair.
it was well, it's like, I really appreciate it, and I feel like I get what it's trying to do, but I didn't connect with it as much as I did the other songs, like, it felt a bit, I don't know, like, it was just harder for me to connect to, but I think it's cool what they're doing here where they have this, like, what sounds like an '80s love ballad,
Yes, yeah.
like, it sounds like a very classic '80s love ballad, and the lyrics are very classic '80s
Oh,
love
yeah.
ballad,
Oh, yeah.
um, and it's sung in, like, this very, like, I feel like it's self-aware cheesy, kinda?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. It
Yeah,
sounds
no.
like Celine Dion.
Yeah, 100%, yeah. I get the same exact vibe. I mean, even the cover from the single is, very clearly, like, people's shoes and clothing from sort of, like, the '80s, and
Mhm.
it's a duet, so, it kinda seems like it's, more of, like, a man and a woman,
Yeah.
and, you have, just a very cheesy, song. I think I like to think that it's self-aware, and now that you're talking about that, like, 2008 album that was like a parody, I
Yeah.
almost kind of just see this as a parody of, like, an '80s love song. It's almost very, like, vapid compared to the rest of the album, and so I
It's
understand.
surprisingly vapid.
Yeah, like, it doesn't have really anything much to think about. It feels really just like a cheesy '80s love song. You would hear this in a club in 1984. I
Yeah.
do think it sounds nice, like, I think it hits that vibe perfectly. It sounds exactly like that.
Yeah.
And I'd like to think that it's, inspired, right? But it is very blatantly,
Yeah.
inspired.
I can appreciate that. I think within the context of the album, it makes sense because if the album is about the human experience and
Right.
dying and being connected to suffering, then it makes sense that like the cheesy love song is the most vapid in the sense that, love can just completely take control of your brain and,
Mm.
you put the blinders on, you don't think about anything else. You're only thinking about this other person. Like the outro is just, "I wanna tell everyone I know I love you," and it's that repeated, like, over and over and over and over again.
Right,
Um,
yeah.
I actually really liked the instrumental for the outro. It got a bit more,
Agreed, yeah,
upbeat.
it
It
picks up.
picks up, yeah, it's a lot more energetic. The cheesy piano kind of takes a back seat, and you get these cool, like, '80s guitars with, like,
Yeah, they're,
some
like, strumming in your left ear. There's like,
yeah, with, like, a
yeah.
chorus effect, and there's, like,
Yep.
this really good dance beat, and it actually feels like dancing. Um,
That is the best part of the song. I agree. I had that written down in
yeah,
my notes as well. Like that, even though even though you like have this like sort of cheesy repeated line, like I love you, want to tell everyone I know over and over. You get this sort of nice cathartic outro at the very least, and so
yeah,
I do think that this song represents sort of what the '80s felt like to a lot of people, and even how we go back and visit it. I think the
mhm,
'80s is sort of like this idyllic period of time. Like that's how a lot of people view it. Like this was a
yeah,
period of time where we were just listening to music, and we had our the car in our cars driving around with our hair back and sunglasses on, and nothing really mattered. And both it seems like the people behind MGMT were born in the '80s, and so maybe talking, hearing what you're kind of saying about growing up, I
mhm,
kind of see that perspective now, right? Because in Loss of Life, you're saying there's like a childlike feel, and Mother
yeah,
Nature is kind of reflecting on maybe the '70s, like '60s, like more the vibe of their parents, and then you have this sort of cheesy '80s song. But yeah, I mean, we're touching on various human experiences throughout different generations and decades. And the
yeah,
'80s, the '80s were really just like an idyllic, vapid time. I feel like.
yeah. Well, I think people just, like, weren't thinking about things as much as maybe they think about things now. They kind of just, like, put the blinders on. They were like, "Economic growth, 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 like, this is never gonna come back around to us. We're never gonna face these consequences of this rapid expansion of what we're doing."
Right.
Um,
And I also see a
"Buy,
very
buy,
big
buy, sell,
parallel.
sell, sell." Sorry, go ahead.
I see a big parallel from the '80s to now. I sort of feel like we are enveloping ourselves in this new sort of online culture where we're just addicted to screens and whatnot, and it feels a lot like the culture that of the '80s. Just like video and music and whatnot was so prominent and such a huge part of everyone's life. Um, it's just interesting to think about, sort of the on its face value idyllic look
Yeah.
at the world, but actually maybe a time of struggle in some way.
I think so too. And I think this song being self-aware, there's a lyric, maybe I mistook pure distraction for a flash of love. This
Mm.
is the flash of love in the context of the album, I feel like.
Yeah.
And maybe they're being like self-aware by being, by putting this flash of love song on an album that is otherwise extremely bleak and
Yeah.
dark.
That's true. So maybe even though we don't necessarily both of us seem to not like the song as much, at the very least, at least it's not at least there's a reprieve from the bleakness. But
Yeah,
do you wanna
absolutely.
move on to track 4, People in the Streets?
I do. Yeah, what did you think of this one?
Yeah, I think this song is much more intimate. You have sort of like
Mhm.
a cello, I think. I'm not really sure. It's a deeper instrument. It's like a bass or something, which is really nice. It's like very simple, and then there's some pretty guitar and like some close-up vocals. And I sort of see this again, about suffering or depression or just not walking around and just not really quite feeling right. I think it's a lot about like literally just feeling anxious about people like kind of looking at you like on the streets, like literal
Mhm.
social anxiety in public.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm reading too literally into it. But there's lines here that sort of touch on it, like all these eyes on you, you're not really learning from that. And I think that's true. Like that's like you're just kind of afraid of what everyone's thinking about you. But these aren't people that you're actually really connecting with. And so, it is just like an anxiety or a fear. And I just think it's an interesting thing to write a song about if that's it, if that is what it's about. That's
I
sort of what
think
I took away from it.
I definitely, feel you on that one. I think it's kind of also about, social anxiety, but also the social isolation you feel when it's like, you're in a place where you're thinking a lot about dying,
Mm,
and because of that, you're not able to connect with other people as well as you would like to,
yeah.
because it's almost like people feel like strangers because they don't really understand, like, what you're going through, or at least it seems that way because I think most people think a lot about death, actually. Well,
Mm.
I can't say most people, but I think a lot of people think a lot about it.
I've been waiting. I've been counting down the days until I start thinking about death. I always feel really weird because I don't think about it, but it's probably this like super subconscious thing, and it's gonna erupt itself at some point in my life, and I'll be like, "Holy shit!" And I'm just gonna
Yeah.
like collapse.
Well, I think that's what the midlife crisis is. It's when you
Yeah.
realize, like, "Oh, shit, like, I'm gonna die," and, like, right now, it feels so far away from us,
Yeah.
because we're on the younger side, but I'm 100% sure. Like the moment, like it's in the back of my mind. It's like it feels like a test that's like a month away right now. It's like, okay, I'm not really thinking about it.
Oh, geez, only a
But
month away. I hope it's a little
well,
longer than
you
that.
know, well, no, actually, I wonder because I was looking in the mirror and
Uh-huh.
recently I found out I have sanpaku eyes.
What does that mean?
It's, this, like, old, uh, like, Japanese, superstition that when you start seeing your eye whites under your iris at the bottom, it means, like, something horrible is gonna happen to you.
What the hell?
Yeah, so I started seeing my eye whites below my iris,
Well, I
which
don't
is
think anything horrible is gonna happen to you.
thanks, I appreciate that. Yeah, but apparently it's, like, people who develop this sort of thing, they or bad things happen. No, but that's I'm digressing. Anyways, yeah, it's like I feel like death is very much on the mind of whoever is singing this tune here. Um like here we've got wheels left the ground hoping to fly past the road ahead. Components start breaking down and sooner or later you're dead. And just when the wool goes over the eyes, somebody moves you along, but it's all wrong.
Yeah. Well, I sort of see this as like the social anxiety breaking you down or like a depression breaking you down. And it's
Mhm.
this reoccurring cycle and it feels a lot like death. You just break and break and break and break until you die in a way. And it's like the churn of life just like killing you until you're dead. But it also could be literal death. And maybe just reflecting on all of these things that happened as you're dying. There are a lot of cool lyrics here though that just like irrespective of the themes that we're drawing from it.
Yeah.
Um like this is a really simple one for some of the way that the vocalist sings end of the line in real time. I don't know why. That just has, like a really nice ring to it.
It's good.
Musically, it's not like super complex, but it is like nearly 6 minutes of just kind of like anxious rambling. And it as it progresses, it does get like wobblier and the percussion gets louder, like hitting the toms a bunch and do little drum solos and
Yeah.
big blaring synths come in, little key solos, and it feels pretty cathartic, even though sort of like the last song, I sort of feel like this one isn't very inventive. It feels as well sort of like by the book, I guess.
Mhm.
But I still like it a lot. I think it's a good song.
Yeah, I really appreciate the composition of people in the streets. I feel like there's like a beauty to its simplicity. Because in order to make like an engaging piece of simple music, especially at a lower BPM, it takes a lot.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate like the plucked acoustic chorusy guitar. It
Yeah.
sounds very much like minstrel, play me another tune. Um, and then you get these like louder guitars that come in later and all these like crashing cymbals and I think it's pretty cool. It almost sounds like I felt like I was listening to a stage play at this point where it was like I almost imagined just like props being wheeled back and forward as this person is like walking on the stage and is just like seeing all these people pass by, and it feels very like when you're, I don't know, depersonalized or something. You just can't connect
Mm.
to people in the streets.
Yeah. Interesting.
You wanna move on to Bubblegum Dog?
Yeah, this is my favorite song on the album, I think. This is the one I've
Ooh,
gone back to the most. I
let's hear it.
well, it's interesting. I'm reading this directly from the Genius page right now. I actually didn't have this in my notes,
Mhm.
but I guess this song is a scrap song from the Little Dark Age sessions, and that actually kind of makes a lot of sense because not that I dislike this album, but I like Little Dark Age more. I think, at least at the
Mm,
present,
mhm.
and this song is my favorite here. So maybe that sort of lines up, right? I guess it does sound a lot like Little Dark Age. I think it
Yeah.
touches on I have a feeling like your interpretation might be more on uh, seeing the bubblegum dog as sort of like death catching up with you.
Mm,
And that might be interesting to hear about. But I think it's the bubblegum dog presents itself as sort of like the manifestation of suffering, whether it's anxiety or depression or
yeah.
whatever else. It's like personifying it as this thing that sort of takes us over, that's like constantly eating away at us and isolating us and there's lyrics about like just hating this bubblegum world, like in fear of this bubblegum dog, and whatever you feel bad about, like that's what this bubblegum dog is hard to say. Say
Yeah.
bubblegum dog 5 times fast.
Bubblegum dog, bubblegum dog, bubblegum dog, bubblegum dog, bubblegum dog.
Well, this is why
That was
you're a
hard.
vocalist
That was
and a
hard. That
good
was
podcaster.
thank you.
Uh,
I appreciate
but yeah, that's what the bubble gum dog
Bubble
represents
dog.
to me. Bubble dog.
Bubble
Uh,
dog.
yeah, it's this, terrifying reality. It's whatever is hurting you or making you suffer. And I think the third stanza in the song, verse 2, I think, uh,
Mhm.
especially like the lines here, like tenement homes, like living in the coal mine, manicured lawns, igneous basketballs. Like you just feel like you're going through like a million generations. Like every human experience is felt to me here. It bang our heads against the gong.
Yeah.
It's just the manicured lawns one obviously speaks more to us because we live in the present. But
Yeah.
it is so sad how we have these big neighborhoods and we all have these very pretty lawns, but we're not making them pretty to use them. No one's going out to talk to each other and experience
No.
things with each other. You're just making them pretty, like
For
because you
your
feel like
ego.
it. Yeah, well, yeah, or even just because you feel like you have to do it. Why do we even have the manicured lawns if you're afraid to even sit out in them? What's the
Yeah.
point of it?
They're also not functional.
They're
Like,
not.
they're really bad for the environment too. They use so much water. You could have plants that contribute to, like, pollinators. You could have,
Right.
like, plants that contribute to eating food.
Yeah, well, that's not to go on too much of a tangent here about lawns because I feel like we could probably tangent about it for
We could
10
too.
minutes.
We
But
could.
it is really sad to me how lawns don't get used. I think that's the annoying thing. Like, I think if you're going to have a lawn, you should be allowed to put flowers in it or
Yeah.
like plants or like, I don't know, have a pig pen. Maybe that's ridiculous, but
Yeah, it's almost ironic, right? It's
put a
like
lawn chair out, like sit out. Like people used to do that. Go
they
sit
used
out
to.
in the lawn.
Yeah, now it's, like, synonymous with, like, "Hey, get off my lawn."
Right, it's like it's this thing that nobody else can touch, it's like this precious little piece of land, it's mine, I own it.
Yeah.
I no one can touch it and I won't touch it, but I will keep it pretty because, the HOA wants me to. I think I would respect
It's
someone
a
who has a big lawn if they use it. That's how I
right,
feel about it.
right. It's a vapid piece of land, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
we can say that? It's like a
For most people it
vapid.
is, yeah.
Yeah. I feel like that's a great point you brought up because I feel like, in a way, the song deals with, like, the fear of vapidness.
Mm,
I kind of
that's
interpret it
interesting.
as like you've heard of, like, bubblegum pop, right?
Yeah, I love bubblegum pop. Isn't,
Me
like
too.
isn't Charlie XCX that's, like, bubblegum pop? Or
I
no?
think Charlie XCX has dabbled in bubblegum pop for sure, especially
It's
in
the
her
one album that I really like is bubblegum pop, I think. Or
it
bubblegum bass or something, whatever they call it,
something like
and
that, yeah.
genres are hard.
Yeah, so bubblegum being, like, just for the pure fun of something, and I wonder because they've been self-referential to their work before, at least in my interpretation of Little Dark Age, where they're, like, talking it feels like, they're talking about the success of Oracular Spectacular in a way. I
Mm,
wonder if they're almost, like, afraid with, like, the vapidness of some of those well, I say vapidness in quotes because those songs are just like, like, they're just made for fun. They're made for, like, pop.
right,
They're pop bangers.
right.
It's a very psychedelic experience. I
Mm,
like the chorus. I felt hate toward the earthly world, but hate is a very strong word, and it's finally catching up with me. It's I also wonder if it's like they're kind of like knocking themselves in the teeth for being like, "Oh, well, why can't I appreciate the more vapid stuff?" Where it's like, "Why can't people just have fun? Like,
right.
why do you need to rain on someone's parade?" Um, it feels like someone wrestling with that sort of thing because I feel like there is a place for just fun. Like
Mhm.
bubblegum is a fantastic genre. I love a lot of bubblegum music and I love their work on Oracular Spectacular.
Yeah, having that's actually very interesting. I wonder if they are talking about that. I do sort of see, like, this outro as sort of the narrator here just sort of like, "Let's go." Like, they're like, "The
Yeah.
days are short and the nights are long. Bang our heads against the gong," and then finally, "Maybe tinkle on the lawn." And you know what? That's awesome. I'm gonna tinkle on the lawn.
Yeah, it is pretty awesome.
No, but yeah, I mean, it just feels like you sort of lost yourself, and You're just, taking it out on the world almost and on yourself. And you know, the world is scary. There's a lot of crap out there. But
Yeah.
musically, this is pretty twangy. It's nostalgic and soft, and it feels very comforting and very fun, despite the message that it's giving.
I think
It,
so too.
it's just really good. I mean, it's just my favorite song. I think I'll probably listen to this one a lot.
It's a very psychedelic song too, with like some of the melodies and harmonies. Like it sounds very 70s psychedelic, but with like a modernized facelift, I guess.
Mm.
Um, yeah, I really I think there is a place for simplicity and shallow pleasure, and there's like a place for just harmless fun, and, I think this song is almost like reminding people, like, don't take it's not that serious, it's not that deep, try not to take things, like, way too serious because if you live the life of, like, "Everything is so simple and, like, nothing is deep anymore, like, I wanna be deep, man," like, you're just going to, like, not enjoy life.
Yeah,
You need to appreciate, like, the
the
shallow
simple things.
you need to appreciate the simple things or you're just going to be miserable.
Yeah.
And, hate begets hate, and hating on things is just going to make you miserable. You're going to feel like shit. You're just going to be better if you just like accept things for how they are and just like appreciate life.
Yeah, 100%. And I almost feel like that you get that optimistic message from the end, because it does sort of feel like the narrator lets go at the end.
Yeah.
It's like, let's
Yeah,
let
yeah.
go and just tinkle on the lawn. I mean, maybe we don't all need to go tinkle on the lawn, but that's maybe spreading a little bit of hate. But I think it is good to sort of let go at the end of the day and appreciate those simple things. So that
I
is sort of a
agree.
nice message.
I agree. Yeah, totally. Do
I
you
have
wanna
nothing to say anymore about this one.
Me too. Nothing to declare.
Nothing to declare, you could say. Track
No.
6.
Tr- Track 6.
What did you think about this one?
I love the opening line here. Nothing to declare, not in the bags under my eyes.
Mm.
That feels what's the word I'm looking for? It's like sarcastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like this person has been through so much that there's a lot in the bags under the Well, it's also like um it's like a cool double entendre because it's like, when you're traveling on a plane, it's like, "Do you have anything to declare in your bags?" And it's like, "No." Um,
I do not have anything in there.
I do not. Yeah, there's, like, more reference to castles here. My Spanish castle in the sky, which I think is a Jimi Hendrix reference, question mark?
Oh, yeah, you're right, I think so.
Yeah,
I didn't pick up on that.
I actually really like this song.
Yeah,
It might be one of my more favorite ones despite being, like, a little more low key.
I agree,
Um,
actually.
yeah, the instrumental is so jangly and fun, and, like I don't know if you get this vibe, but it feels like a retirement home dance.
Wow, interesting. I mean, kind of, because, you have this cover of, like, an old-timey woman, putting on makeup and just
Mm,
very stoic face as well. So maybe it
yeah,
is sort of, I mean, obviously, a lot of these songs are playing on, retro sounds, or playing off of a retro sound, so that's a
yeah,
good, I see that, actually.
yeah, and I like the beat. They use, like, this really nice sounding rim, which I
Mhm.
am a sucker for a good rim shot. What?
No, 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 it's just funny out of context. I'm a
Yeah,
sucker for a good rim shot.
yeah.
Sorry, keep going.
No, it sounds, yeah, it's definitely more, like, acoustic, it seems a lot of to be about escapism, like, you are
Mhm.
traveling with bags under your eyes, which I think maybe can be a metaphor for, like, baggage.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think it's just a really sweet song. It sounds very sweet too. I like this one a lot.
Yeah, I definitely echo what you're saying. I think that line about bags under your eyes, I think, is very poignant. I think, everyone is carrying some amount of suffering or pain or whatever, and, that's sort of a physical representation to show it, right?
Yeah.
The bags under your eyes. But there are other lyrics here about that too, like holding mountains in my hands, just feeling like sort of an immense pressure from all the things you've
Oh, yeah.
experienced.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
and sort of just kind of living this stoic life, like maybe even living in a castle in the sky or almost like a castle of your mind. And but the lyrics know that, they can't wall themselves off forever. So, they stumble around looking for warmth from others or going to the bar and like getting drunk. I feel like this song like makes me feel like lost when I listen to it.
Yeah, I
Makes me feel
agree.
literally lost, like a drunkard in like it like this song also feels like a song you'd hear in like an old tavern, like literally drunk off your ass on ale,
Yeah,
you know?
I second that completely.
Just
I
wandering around depressed in the village.
and I think it's so, uh, natural to want to escape to fantasy when you do have mountains in your hands, bags under
Yeah.
your eyes, like, it's very much like daydreaming of, like, "I gotta get out of here."
Yeah.
Yeah, I love this
I'm
song.
going to the tavern.
I'm going to the tavern.
My
I like this
goat's
song a
milk
lot.
spoiled.
Oh
I
my
need to drink some ale.
I need to drink ale.
I'm
I
all
s
out of hay.
I murdered a good man, I set the crops on fire,
I pissed it. I tingled in the
I
lawn.
banged my head on a gong. Yeah, it's good.
Oh man. Well, at the end of the day, nothing changes, right? Track 7.
Track 7, Nothing Changes.
This
Um,
definitely feels like a late '80s slow banger by The Cure or something. What did you think about this song?
I thought it was good. I also, I felt like I was almost getting, like, XTC vibes, like,
I don't
yeah,
know. I don't know what that is. What's XTC?
they're like the band that made the song, like, Nigel. It's like, "We're
Interesting.
only making plans for Nigel." Wah, wah.
Oh, yeah. Actually, I totally get that. I've heard that
Yeah,
song.
it is, like, definitely, like, it feels like a late '80s type thing, but they still have their, like, psychedelic, still have their psychedelic sound on it.
Hmm.
It's, got these very echoey, spacey drums and, like, very, very lovely piano. I like this song a lot also.
Yeah.
I really like the chorus, like, "And I feel strange," that
Hmm.
part. Um, it it sounds really beautiful, um, but the actual lyrical content is so depressing.
Hmm.
Um, so this is what the gods, must have been talking about when they told me nothing changes, falling through the Pleiades straight into a cloud, wishing all the stars could save me. Um, I had to check, the Pleiades is like a constellation. So I feel like this is
Mm.
like your soul ascending. Um, and then the chorus is like, "Oof, and I feel strange, like I shouldn't be here. Let me know if you receive me. If I could change, then I wouldn't be here, and nothing's gonna change, believe me, so don't lead me on."
Mm. And then right into verse 2, like paralleling to verse 1, like this is what the birds have been squawking about. I really like that, the parallel to the this is what the gods have been talking about. I think that's just cute. And yeah, I mean this one might literally be like more about death like you were talking about.
Yeah,
This one kind of feels like death.
and I wonder if there's like a reincarnation type of thing there again, because it's like, let's say a human has come back as a bird and is like squawking in your ear, like warning you, like, "Hey, buddy, it's not gonna get better. Like, I've been there. Trust me. Now I'm a bird. I'm chilling." Um, it feels like very. I just feel like there's some kind of like, because why else would birds be squawking at you and warning you about something?
Yeah, I sort of feel like it's this mountain of just your experience, just the human experience that you might feel, at death's door. And
Yeah,
I mean, you have lines here about, thrusting the dagger, and then, like it just feels like you're getting a bunch of lyrics about an endless strain of quotidian life. Like Sisyphus reference here, very
yeah.
epic. Sisyphus,
Sisyphean daily life.
right? And I just think that's kind of creative, but it's also like pretty goofy too. Like I think this song is like a little fun, especially towards the end, where it's singing like la la la. It's like
Yeah,
it
I
gets kind
love
of
that
goofy.
part. I
Yeah, I
think
really like
you
that too.
I my interpretation of that is like, someone covering their ears and going like, "La, la, la, I can't hear you,"
Right.
because
Just
they
like
don't
all this
want it.
shit, just la la la. Yeah.
Yeah, they don't wanna hear that nothing changes, but it's like, the gods are telling them, these, like, birds are telling them, they know themselves, nothing's gonna change, but they're just trying to, like, block that out because they almost, like, can't handle that.
Hmm.
I mean, it's like a very depressing thought that nothing changes, right? I feel like there's some do you feel like things change? Do you think, like, people can change and things can change?
I think people do change, but there obviously are a lot of patterns in life, right? Whether
Mhm.
it's with reality or people in general, just anything. There are obviously endless cycles as well, which is a very like depressing thing to like think about. Like even in
Yeah,
just like war, just the cycle
yeah.
of war. Like there is a lot of repeated pattern that is sort of frustrating. Um, and I think thinking about all that is sort of frustrating. Maybe that's what the song is about too.
I think
Like
so.
getting stuck in ruts or repeated patterns is frustrating, and you just sit there going like, it's sad. Life is hard. La la la. I don't want to hear
Yeah.
it.
I think people can change, they just have to really want to, but
Yeah.
I agree, there's definitely some patterns that, need unbreaking.
hmm This
Um, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say that this song feels like it has like sort of a jolly Christmas vibe to it, in a way. Like
In a way, yeah, like a
there's like a
family
brass
gathering.
yeah, there's like a brass section or something, and I feel like if you just slapped like some lyrics about Santa Claus there, you could get a Christmas song. Maybe I'm crazy, but
No, I actually feel that. I
but
actually do feel that.
Christmas music is such a dry market. Like I feel like we haven't had a good big Christmas song since Mariah Carey's "All I Want for Christmas Is You." That feels like that's where Christmas music ended. Like when's the last big Christmas song? Can you even think of one?
Honestly, no. Justin
Yeah, what the
Bieber's
hell's
Christmas album? I don't
yeah,
know.
but come on, like that didn't really. I mean, maybe some people like that. That's whatever, but I feel like that didn't have that much of a lasting impact. It's
Yeah,
very weird. Like think talking about repeated patterns. That I mean, we're just listening to the same Christmas songs over and over. We should get a couple new ones.
I think so too. Um, I think so too. I someone make a new Christmas album.
Yeah, come on.
Someone named Frady, perhaps?
Oh, Frady's song
Frady's
tracking.
song.
That was really good.
Thank you. I have some interesting lore about this song.
Oh yeah, let's hear it.
So Andrew Van Weingarten, who does the vocals for MGMT, his daughter is named Frady, and she is about 2 years old now. So it feels like maybe this song is literally about her and
Oh,
the love that he was able to rediscover, like the humanity he was able to rediscover through his daughter.
aw.
It's sung in a very sweet way, like almost like a lullaby,
Yeah,
and
I got the same vibe.
yeah, it has these very, like, dreamy lullaby chords and choruses. Um, and there's lyrics that are literally like, "And I will sing to you every night if you want me to." Um, the opening lines are so potent and strong. "Did I dream before? It felt like I couldn't love anymore. Entire symphonies, a holy light was gifted to me." So almost like, Frady has helped Andrew here rediscover, like, what it means to, like, truly love. This is like
Mm.
this is like love to love's fullest.
Yeah, I definitely I get the lullaby vibe here as well. It reminds me of like "You Are My Sunshine," like that sort of
Yeah,
lullaby.
yeah,
You sort of imagine a parent's, or specifically, I imagine a mother's comfort. But it's got nice lyrics about just like being there for you. It's very comforting to hear. It's very nice, which is really great. Considering how bleak this album can feel. You feel sort of embraced by like a warm hug, and these voices kind of come in towards the end that sort of ruin it. Not ruin it in like a musically, but like ruin the good vibe, because I don't know, those weird distorted hushes towards the end, like twisted sounds are kind of creepy, but I don't know if that was the intention. Uh, but it could also just be like, winding down, right? Just kind of like falling asleep, or like the sun
yeah.
going down.
Well, it has these, like, very psychedelic arps,
Yeah.
um, and, like, wind chimes.
Yeah.
It does sort of become a bit dissonant near the end, but it's still, like, a
Yeah.
very beautiful it feels like the twinkling of stars or, like
Oh yeah.
I think this is what the song that made me feel like I was journeying on, like, the river Styx or something to the underworld after, like, departing. It was, like, very, surreal listening experience. It was very beautiful.
Yeah, 100%. It sort of gets you feeling almost like young, but almost like younger than young, like before you were alive. It's got a weird feel to it. It's very nostalgic and comforting. I think most people could listen to this song and feel some sort of something.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree.
and yeah, I love
I
it.
wish I wish I was joking about how much I loved that song.
Really, why? Because it's.
Because no, because the next song is I wish I
I
was
know.
joking.
Track
Um,
9. I wish I was joking. What did you think about this one?
I really liked it. Um, this one has like a kind of interesting instrumental. It's like got these like cool synths that are like wee, wee, like kind of in the back.
Yeah.
Um like and the chord progression is very interesting. It sounds and I don't know how to describe it, but I like the instruments being used, and it feels like a very retro drum set as well with like a
Mm.
retro beat. Um the vocals are sung in this like kind of hushed lamenting way,
Yeah.
which I feel like with the um lyrical content, I feel like is giving off the image of this middle-aged person reflecting on their life,
Mm.
um and kind of being like, oh well, here I am. uh it, it feels like a midlife crisis.
Yeah, a little bit.
Or
And
like, it feels like your middle-aged dad, like, talking to you about, like, when they used to live it up. Like,
yeah.
so, like, here's the this verse, like, "Here's the thing about drugs, they'll sink your mind and steal your friends, you kiss the sky below the bed," which almost feels like a pep talk, like, that
Yeah.
your dad would give you, or, the chorus, it feels like he's reminiscing on, like, this time when he was called the gangster of love. Like, the line goes, "Nobody calls me the gangster of love," and then there's this, like, cheesy, um, vocal, ensemble that's like, "The
Yeah.
gangster
Yeah,
of
dude, I had
love."
this in my notes too because, like, that literally made me laugh when I
Me
first heard
too.
it.
I thought it was
It's
so
so
funny.
funny. It's
Yeah.
the gangster love, yeah.
They're
Dude,
being
holy
so
shit.
self-aware. I thought
Yeah.
it was self-aware. It's almost like, this first chorus here, "For a $6 coffee and municipal parking and Disney on Ice, I wish I was joking." It's almost like this is like silver
Holy
fox
shit.
being like, "Man, what
You're so
has my
right.
life become?" And then he's trying to, like, fantasize and, like, trying to make escapism out of it. At 6
Yeah.
in the morning, a new day is dawning, but his new day is just, like, $6 coffees and, like, parking at the office and shit. You know what I mean?
You're
It
so
feels
right, and
like
wow.
it's like this depressed guy who's,
It's
just
him. I mean, you just said, like, he's the father, right? Like, he had a
yeah,
kid? I didn't
yeah.
know that. And so now it makes total sense, yeah. This is literally just about being a dad.
Maybe actually, yeah, like, maybe it is, like, him
Fucking
envisioning
coffee.
himself.
Need another fucking coffee. Gotta watch Disney on Ice with my kid. Fuck my life. Wish
Ma
I was fucking joking, but, like, this is my life now. But hey, they used to call me the gangster of love.
Yeah.
Gangster of love.
But
Yeah,
I
holy
feel like
shit.
I feel like it's flippant because I feel like
Yeah, no,
I do
100%.
get the vibe he is truly grateful for his daughter,
Oh,
like
yeah. Oh, no. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, but it's almost like,
It's an
uh
awesome song. I actually love this now.
no, this song is great. I feel like it's directed more at, like, like, middle-aged dads who are like, "Oh, I fucking hate my family. Can't believe I have to, like, do this shit." But it's like, why couldn't you just it's like almost the bubble this guy is describing the bubblegum dog, like, why can't you just appreciate the simple things, you know what I mean? Why
Mm.
can't you appreciate your $6 coffee, municipal parking, and Disney on Ice? You're making yourself miserable by, like, complaining about this constantly, like, just enjoy your family, Jesus.
It's also an awesome, awesome human, though, and it's an awesome dad, just like a guy who just gets his $6 coffee, and he's just
Yeah,
really pissed.
yeah.
It's fucking Disney on Ice."
I'm gonna take my fucking kids to fucking Disney on Ice. I wish I was
I gotta
joking.
watch gotta watch
Grumble.
fucking Mickey Mouse on the ice again.
But I mean, like, despite the what I feel like is poking fun at that, I feel like there is like a kernel of truth to it,
Mhm.
where it's like it can be kind of a lot to feel these things
Yeah.
where there is some truth to like you had a past life, you were the gangster of love, whatever. It's like this person is clearly like going through shit. So I think I can empathize in that way, and it's sung in this very lamenting way where it's like, okay, well, your life is maybe coming to a close here as you perceive it.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, you're sort of you see this new child, and you're seeing like how they're going to have all these experiences, and you're thinking about your own experiences when you were young, and your
Mhm.
experiences now, and you're reflecting on the experience of humanity, and it's just yeah. I mean, this fits right into the themes that both of us have been talking about, and
I
yeah, I
think
think
so.
This is a song for the dads.
This is
This
a
is a
song
song
for
for
the
the
dads.
dads.
Well, you know what? It's interesting because MGMT has been, I'm sure a lot of people who were like, turning up to MGMT, like dancing on Molly and acid, dropping acid during their like huge banger concerts back in the day are
Yeah.
probably like parents now, a lot of them.
Mm.
Um, and that's why I feel like this album is so much more mature. It's just acknowledging the realities of aging.
Yeah. Wow. You bringing up that I didn't realize that track 8 was literally about his daughter. And that puts this into it puts it into a new perspective to me. This album is a dad album.
It's a dad album.
And it's good. It hits those themes well. I mean, do you want to hit the final track here, Loss of Life?
Let's do it. What did you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think this might be grappling with death. Like it's like
Right.
all of this human suffering, you can get to know everybody, you can greet the workers of the universe as they're saying here, but no matter what, you're going to kind of meet this end and maybe, you're sort of thinking about that because you have a child. You're like, damn, like I want to be here for this child,
Yeah.
but I'm only going to be around for so long, I'm getting old. And yeah, it's very interesting. I mean, the song musically sounds really cool, especially when it picks up and there's really like bassy percussion and you get lyrics talking about like being born again in the morning. Like I said, there's a lot of themes here about like being so depressed in the night and then waking up in the morning. But I think also it's here like, it's like saying like anyone can wake up in the morning and love again. No matter what
Yeah.
you go through or no matter all the suffering or the thoughts, longing of the past or whatever, you can wake up in the morning and love again. And I think that's a pretty message.
I think it is too. And I pretty much completely agree with your interpretation here. I think I had the same interpretation. I almost took it as like someone maybe like dying
Mm,
and passing on. The instrumental feels very like regal, almost like,
yeah,
oh, like,
fantasy again, medieval.
yeah, like the king has died, kind of like, and is having like their procession. Um, Especially with, like, the dun dun da da, I thought I heard one of those, and then there's
Yep,
this, like,
yep.
yeah, there's this really beautifully plucked, string section, um, and then there's, these, like, tinkle sounds that
Mhm.
they
Tinkle of
sound
the
like,
Lawn.
yeah, well, they sound like, water dropping in a cave, which,
Mm,
again, made me feel like I'm passing on the river Styx or something.
right.
um There's a very beautiful piano. It's like a softer, more sparse instrumental. Um, there's lots of twinkling, like lots of, it feels like stars in a way. And then it has this like huge explosion at the end where
Mhm.
it like erupts with like drums and I feel like that's the moment maybe the narrator dies. At least that's my interpretation.
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
fair.
The only other thing I wanted to say about this song was there's this line or 2 lines, but it's neither created nor destroyed. There's a way to quiet all the noise. Um, I have listened to Congratulations so many times. Specifically, Siberian Breaks was one of my favorite songs.
Mhm.
And there's a line on Siberian Breaks that's like, long before it made a noise to keep on quietly reminding you what's never created or destroyed. And,
Mm.
that song also has, like, a very spacey outro, where it's like, doo 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 boo boo. I don't know how to recreate it with just my voice, but
It sounds great. You should do a
yeah,
cover album, just beatbox.
with my voice. Recreating Congratulations with my voice.
That's honestly, that sounds like a YouTube video. That might already exist.
Oh, yeah, there's this guy, maybe we can quickly shout him out. I think it's Spectre. Hold on,
Mm.
let me verify that.
There are a lot of people that do that, make songs with just their voice, but there are some that are, like, actually really good.
It's no, yeah, a lot of it is really good. Yeah,
Yeah.
so there's this guy on YouTube named Spectre who, makes videos like Yeezus, but it's just my voice, To Pimp a Butterfly, but it's just my voice.
Yeah. Yeah,
Good
those
Kid,
are
Mad City,
awesome.
but it's just my voice, and he's actually really good at it.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah, overall, what did you think of the album?
Yeah, I think overall this album really touches on this theme of, human suffering throughout the years and sort of
Mhm.
reflecting on the past and nostalgia, and I think it's a pretty relatable album, even if you're not like a parent. Everything's really confusing, and we're all just kind of. I like how you keep putting it, like moving through the river Styx. But at the end of the day, like even though when things feel, even when things can feel at their worst, there's
Yeah.
another day tomorrow, and in the morning you might feel okay again. And after all the undressing of cosmic knots and the universe unfolding, or when the painting is finished, kind of what that 10th song touches on, no matter how it looks, like you only have your days, and every day is a new chance to do something good. And I think that's nice. And
Definitely.
although this album is very bleak at times and it's touching on a lot of that suffering, I think I would like to think, especially with the knowledge now that he's a parent, you're sort of reflecting on this and moving forward. You're moving forward with your life. And
Yeah.
yeah, I think it got us thinking a lot. I mean, I think this is actually maybe the album we've talked the longest about. I don't remember
Yeah,
the exact time frames, but we really went off.
wow,
So
there was a lot to say. I think a lot to unpack because their content is always so philosophical, I think.
yeah,
Um, I agree, with what you were saying. I think, yeah, learning a lot about life and taking it as you move forward or into the next life, which I don't know, I feel like there is a reincarnation theme here
mm,
at some point maybe, but overall, I would say I enjoyed it. I felt like, for some reason, I felt like it was missing, like, a little zest, a little zhuzh
that's fair.
somehow, which might be because it was just, like, a sparser track list, and maybe there were, like, a couple songs that didn't hit as hard for me, but I think it was great, and it has a lot to say. Um, I hope people don't listen to it and feel disappointment because of how much of a like, because they wanted another Little Dark Age, but
Yeah,
MGMT has always just been about doing whatever they want and, like, having their own sound and following their own vision, which I hugely respect, so I think, it's great that they have once again just stuck with their guns and have just, decided to do what makes them happy.
yeah, and I think even though for me this doesn't quite hit as much as Little Dark Age did, this sort of also like kind of feels like what Quoranta was. Danny Brown. Like it just feels like there's a lot to say. There's
Yeah,
a lot to chew on here. It's thoughtfully made, and there's a
it
lot
is
to think
very
about.
thoughtful.
And there are some good songs here. And even if it isn't as good as some of those big banger albums, right, that everyone remembers from their youth or whenever they used to listen to MGMT, and it has been 6 years. Uh, this is still there's a lot of good tracks here, and it's still
Yeah,
a worth a listen, especially if you're an MGMT fan. And
I
I echo
agree.
what you're saying. I really respect that they're not afraid to take maybe not necessarily risks, but not afraid to explore themselves and talk about whatever they want to talk about. And yeah, I like this one a lot. I really like Bubblegum Dog. I like the song Nothing
Yeah,
Changes, and overall
definitely.
it's a really solid album to me.
I
So
think it's a
yeah.
solid album. And the last thing I will say is on the cover, you know how those, like, floating heads, it feels like they have that, like, clown makeup,
Yeah.
that eye clown makeup that's like, triangles, kind of?
Oh, interesting. I thought that
Mhm.
was their nose.
Oh, I thought it was, like, eye clown makeup, but
Oh,
maybe it is
interesting.
their nose now that I'm looking no, wait, maybe it is their nose now that I'm
I
looking
I
at it.
could see the eye clown makeup.
Maybe it's both, but,
It's both.
I thought it was the same eye clown makeup that the creature
Oh,
person
yeah.
on
Little
Little
Dark Age?
Dark Age was
Yeah.
wearing, and I wonder if that's, like,
That new motif.
their new column, yeah, their motif. Maybe it's like a spiritually, maybe it's, no, I think you're right, though, I think it's their nose, like, maybe I'm just maybe it's I think it's their nose.
Well, comment down below on Spotify or YouTube whether you think it's the nose or clown makeup. I
Or
think
clown
either is
makeup.
valid.
Thank
I
you.
uh I really enjoyed listening to this album. I really enjoyed talking to Alex about it, and I'm gonna enjoy reading the comments about what you guys thought. We appreciate you listening. As always, you can follow us on Twitter at musicpostingpod. We have a subreddit. You know the jazz. Listen to us on Spotify. And yeah, this has been Music Posting. I'm Astrid.
I'm Alex.
See ya.
Later, skater. Thanks for listening.